First of all, Ken, I wonder if you can tell people watching around the world what motor neurone disease what effect it has had on your life.
Well, the first thing that people can see is that I have difficulty holding my head up. 2 years ago, I was perfectly fit, had a job, drove, cooked, did all the normal things that people do. And then I was diagnosed with motor neurone disease, and little by little, I lost the use of my legs, my hands don't grip, my body starts to curl up, and effectively, from being an independent person, I became a person who's completely dependent on other people to do everything for me. It's as if I'm a kind of child again, with being dressed, being washed, everything has to be done for me.
And what does that do to you as a person who, in their head, can do all of these things, but their body isn't allowing them to do it?
Well, it's very frustrating in a way because the brain works perfectly and all the internal organs work perfectly, but little by little, the limbs stop working. So you know you can do things, but you can't. And you have to all the time be working out, how can I get from this place to that? How do I transfer from a seat to a toilet? Simple things like that. How do I get a fork to my mouth? So it's a constant process of trying to use your brain to work out what you can do.
Suzanne, I can see you sitting there nodding your head. Share your story with us.
Yes, I was diagnosed 12 years ago and unfortunately still here. And it was a case of noticing a weakness in my arms, which has progressed to me losing my balance. Swallowing is a challenge, frightened to choke on anything. And as Ken said, you do lose your independence when you're so used to it for a number of years, and then all of a sudden you have to ask your loved ones, can you cut my food please? Can you open this? Can you help me get dressed? And it's very demoralizing at the best of times.
And presumably, Suzanne, as well, it changes the dynamic of your relationship with your partner, with your children, when you're asking for so much help.
Absolutely. I'm asking far more of them than people who have nothing wrong with them. For example, my sons, I mean, they're doing jobs for me that other lads, boys their age, are not doing. They're enjoying life, but I'm now having to rely on them for certain things, and I hate having to do it. I hate doing it because I'm the mother. I'm meant to be the one doing things for them, and I can't always.
Ken and Suzanne, I want to introduce you to Stephen Finger. He's an economics professor at the University of South Carolina, and you were diagnosed a couple of years ago, Stephen.
Yes, I was diagnosed last winter, so about 18 months ago.
And you've got a young family. Just explain a little bit about how your life has been affected since that diagnosis.
Sure. So I was diagnosed last winter, and at the time it was right around my son's first birthday, and we also had a 2-year-old daughter. So now we have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. And so obviously facing the diagnosis, given the limited life expectancy, was extremely difficult. And now in the day-to-day life, as Suzanne just mentioned, I even asked stuff of my 4-year-old. This morning, she helped me get this shirt on. We went to her daycare, and she needed to wear tennis shoes today, and we had to take them into school for the teachers to put them on because I couldn't help her with that because of the weakness in my hands and my arms. So I'm asking I'm putting burdens on my 4-year-old daughter. And that's nothing to say of the burdens placed on my wife, who works full time and then now has to pick up the slack because of my limitations.
And I guess most parents of young children want the time to stop because it's so adorable having them when they're running around, well, at least when they're behaving themselves, running around. But maybe for you, you almost want to get to those milestones so that you see them.
Exactly. That's 100% my perspective, that every very small minor milestone means the world to me. Being able to see my daughter begin to write her letters, to see her begin to take ballet classes, begin to play on a football team. Yes, I wish time would fast forward in that sense of when we reach these milestones, there's so much uncertainty for me into how many more we're going to see together. So each one is a celebration, and I would love to fast forward and be able to share them all with her and my son and my wife.
Yes.
Suzanne, as you've already said, you were diagnosed 12 years ago. So that's quite a long time that you have fought successfully against this disease, isn't it?
It is. A lot of positive thinking, having an amazing family support, and the amazing people like Professor Dame Pamela Shaw. All of this, I'm positive, is helping to keep me here. I mean, my boys were 7 and 9 when I was diagnosed, and I've been very fortunate and I feel extremely grateful. I've seen my boys turn 18 and I've seen my eldest turn 21. So yes, it is possible. It is, but you just take each day as it comes and enjoy it to its fullest.
Stephen, I can see you nodding.
Yeah, everything about Suzanne's story is an inspiration to me. And I think knowing that there are people out there like Suzanne who continue to live productive, loving, incredible lives 12 years post-diagnosis, as she said, just makes you want to continue to live each day. You get hit with the diagnosis and you process the severity of it, but then you also know that there are people who are able to survive these lengths of time and are able to live incredibly productive lives even as the disease progresses. And so that, again, seeing examples like that just makes me want to live my life to the fullest as well.
Ken, your reaction to that?
I'd agree with all of that, really. We have to do what we can. And it's really a question of readjusting the way you deal with people and the way they deal with you, and accepting that you need help and not trying to be a hero or anything, but working with the people around you to make things work the very best you can for them and for you, knowing that you may have 1 year, you may have 5 years, but you may also get a heart attack next year. So it's the same for us as for everybody, really, and you do the very best you can.
And how do you prepare your families? How do you prepare your future, whether it be financially, emotionally? I wonder if each of you could share that with us. Maybe Suzanne, you start.
I haven't quite reached that point. I guess I'm afraid to jinx it. I didn't tell my boys at first, but as they got older, I did prepare them, and I have written a will out now. So I am prepared for the inevitable, which everyone experiences, the inevitable.
Yeah, I think I'm the same way. I'm a realist. I know what the possibilities are. I think my family tries to be as prepared as possible for whatever comes. So soon after the diagnosis, we went through the process of getting a will in order, understanding our financial situation, and you get those ducks in a row. But I don't think that makes you fatalistic. It just makes you want to be as prepared as possible so that things don't come up as surprises, and so that everyone moves forward as smoothly as possible.
Exactly that. I organised my finances as soon as I knew, and we made adaptations to the house so that I didn't have to go upstairs anymore. And I've been very lucky to have very good support from medical and social services and so on, and they help me to prepare every step of the way before it happens, which makes life a lot more pleasurable, really, because we don't have any crises.
And Stephen, have you been able to speak to your children about this, or have you shielded them from this?
At their ages, I don't think they can fully process what's going on, but they understand that my arms and my hands don't work very well. And for them, that's just normal. They now only remember me as having physical limitations. They know not to pull on me or try to get under my legs because my balance is compromised. So for them, I don't think we shield them at all purposefully. At 4 and 2, I don't think they can process the full prognosis, but at the same time, they know that physically I'm different than their mother.
But to be honest, kids' normal is their normal, isn't it? And they're not going to realise Daddy is just that way, and it's not going to be an issue for them. They're going to still hug you. You've done well to make sure they don't climb on you. My 2-year-old's always climbing up my leg and trying to pull me over. It's a challenge all the time. I wonder, to talk a little bit about the Ice Bucket Challenge, which has obviously had incredible pickup, particularly over the last month, although I know that it ran before that. There has been some criticism about it. I wonder, each of you, what your take is on it. Suzanne first.
What on the criticism?
Well, no, but on the concept of the Ice Bucket Challenge itself.
I think it's amazing. In the Yorkshire area, a couple, Paula and Robert Maguire, have managed to round up an army, including myself, to do the Ice Bucket Challenge for MNDA, and they have, in about 18 days, they have managed to raise £3 million just in Yorkshire alone, and I think it's fabulous.
Ken, do you think that it has really made a difference in raising awareness? I mean, we're having this conversation today on BBC World News because of the Ice Bucket Challenge going viral. So I guess it's doing its job in your view?
It's absolutely brilliant. Most people have never heard of motor neurone disease or ALS, and at least this means, as well as raising money, that everybody in the world has actually heard about it. And that has to be the best thing that could happen for all of us. And hopefully a lot of new research will be funded for future generations who get this awful condition.
Do you think there's enough invested in funding at the moment, Ken?
No, because there's very, very few people who've got this condition, so it's not very high on the list of priorities. Other conditions like cancer get a lot of funding for research, but we don't even know what causes motor neurone disease, and until they find that out, they can't find any cures. So it needs more money, and this is a good way to kickstart it.
And Stephen, very briefly, presumably you support the Ice Bucket Challenge?
Of course. I think for a long time we've felt that the funding hasn't been there at a sufficient level, and I think largely because people didn't feel a connection to the disease. And now we've seen through the Ice Bucket Challenge, millions of people have become aware, and millions of people have chosen to donate. I think this started a bit earlier in the U.S. And so in the U.S., you're seeing organizations already putting this money to work. ALS.
And there are millions and millions of dollars. Thank you all for joining us on World Have Your Say and sharing your story